In this tutorial, we're going to be learning about the grid. We're going to be using CSS Grid to lay out different types of galleries. I already have set up in my project a CSS folder with nothing in it, an IMG folder with some numbered JPEGs, a JS folder with nothing in it. For more information about how to set up a project folder like this, look at the previous videos. The next thing we need to do is create an index.html file. To do that, right-click, create a new file, and label it index.html. Here we can use the Emmet shortcuts by pressing exclamation point, then enter. This gives us the HTML boilerplate. Inside the body tag, we're going to put in the HTML for a header and a navigation bar. So type header, then press enter. Inside the header, we can type nav, then use the Emmet shortcut to add a class to it. We're going to add an h1 with a class of logo. And inside this logo, we'll add an a link and have it go to index.html. The link text that we'll have for here is we could put our name, or in this case, I'm going to put grid galleries. After this, we need an unordered list with a class, so type ul period. Inside the unordered list, we need list items that have classes, so li period, then type the class. Inside each list item, we need a link, so you can press A, then enter. The first link will go to the index, and we'll label the link text for this one auto fit. We can copy this whole line, Command C or Control C, then we can paste it a few times, and then we can change the link location, change the link text to grid span. For the next one, we can type lightbox.html, and for the link text. And then for the last one, we can type Lightbox caption, and then also change the link text. So that's all we need for our navigation bar. For more information about this, please see the previous video on Flexbox Navbars. Now we need to add the content for our gallery. So we're going to make a main container with a class. So type main period. Inside the main, we're going to make a section with a class. So type section period. Inside this gallery container, we're going to have a few different items. First, we're going to have some divs that are going to be our gallery items. These are actually going to be the grid items. So we'll type div dot. Inside each gallery item, we're going to have a link because we want this image gallery to be able to link to the larger images. So we're going to say A, enter. And for this, we're going to link to our images. Here, I've made all the images sequentially numbered for ease of use in this tutorial. You would want to have descriptive names for your image titles for search engine optimization. But for this tutorial, these names are fine. So I'll type the directory img, then a slash, and I can pick the first one. Then inside the link text, we want to put the actual image because that's what is going to be linking. So we'll type img, and we're going to add a class. So put period, and we'll call it gallery img. Then for the source, we're going to have it be the same. So we'll just type img slash and then menu 1. And then for the alt, we'll type, and these are all images from the New York Public Library public domain collection. Right here, these lines, these are the gallery items. So I have 15 menus. So I'm going to copy this and then paste it 14 times. And then I'm going to go through and I will just change this to 2 and this to 2, then to 3, 3, 4. Make sure all of your images are all lined up and labeled correctly. Once you have all your images labeled correctly, press Control S or Command S to save. It will automatically format these so they're a little bit easier to see. We can then start our live server by clicking the Go Live button in the bottom right. As you can see, we have unstyled HTML and images, which is fine because this is everything we need with the classes that we're going to add our CSS. So what we can do is we can go ahead and add our CSS up at the top. In between the meta name and the title, open up a new line and press link, enter, and then we can link to our CSS. We can type CSS and then styles.css. It's not there yet, but that's what we're going to be using. So now we can go ahead and make that style sheet. Right click over in the left and make a new file. Call it styles.css. Then inside the styles.css, I'm going to start typing the basic code that we use on all of our web pages. And then I'm going to type the code for the nav bar. If you want more information about the Flexbox Navbar, please watch the previous video where I go into that in detail. So now we have our nav menu working for mobile. Remember, we're designing for mobile first. So now we have to make it work on tablets and larger desktops. So here I'm on a tablet and I think I should have these be on a single line. So we'll go ahead and add some media queries down below. So now I have it working on tablet size things. I have the title up at the top and then the 4 menu items. We need one more for large desktops. We want to have the menu move over to the side. So we'll add one more media query. So now we have something that works on the desktop, something that works on tablets and on smaller devices. If you want more information about this, please watch the Flexbox Navbar video. If you've been following along in this series, you've already done all of this code. And now we will start the tutorial of the different types of CSS galleries. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right above the media queries and we'll put in a comment here. Remember, to make a comment in CSS, you put a slash, then a star. And that's good for your code so you can navigate what's going on. So I'm going to put another comment here. This is where we're going to type all the styles for our first CSS grid. And if you look at the title of this grid, it is an autofit grid. So we're going to use the autofit properties of the CSS grid. If you'd like to learn more about the CSS grid, please watch the previous video to find out all the different features it has. So let's look back at our index. So we're going to ignore all the nav bar because that is all fixed there. Now we're going to look. We have a main class of gallery page. So let's style that first. So in the styles, I'm going to target gallery page. And inside gallery page, I'm going to add some padding. Remember, for padding and margin, it's top, right, bottom, left, just like a clock. So I'm going to have 0 padding on the top, 1 rem on the right. Then I want 10 on the bottom and 1 on the left. As you can see now, we have just a little bit of padding to give our images space to breathe on the screen. The next thing we need to do is style the grid container. And if you look at our class here, we have our section class gallery container. I'm going to change the name of this. I'm going to call this gallery autofit, okay? Because that's going to be the one for the autofit page. I'll go ahead and save that. You won't notice any change there because there's no CSS attached to that. So here, what we're going to do is I'm going to type to target that class, gallery autofit. And the first thing we want to put is display grid. And again, when we save that, nothing changes because we have to define the columns. To do that, we'll type grid template columns. And this is where we're going to use the magic of the autofit and the min-max. So we're going to type repeat. The first ones will be autofit. So that's how many columns. And then we need to put a min-max and make sure there's no space between min-max and your parentheses. So then we're going to say min-max on a range of 300 pixels to 1 FR. And if I save that suddenly, I have this great grid. It's not bad. We need to fix these. different items, and we'll do that in just a moment, but you can see how it automatically resizes the images, which is really great. So we also need to set the grid auto rows, so it knows how tall the rows need to be. So we'll type grid auto rows, and we'll type 300 pixels. If I save that, then it smashes everything into the rows, and we can add a grid gap of half a rem just to give a little bit of space in between the images. Now what we need to do is we need to fix how these images look. You know, they're not, I mean, it's nice, but we need to fix how they're all laid out. So let's do that now. So we'll look back at the HTML. So far we've styled main class gallery page. We've styled the section class gallery auto fit. Now we need to style the gallery items, okay? Because that's what each of the grid items are. So right here, we'll style gallery items, give them a height of 100% and a width of 100%. And we're going to type overflow hidden. And we'll save that. Now we'll go back to the HTML. So now we've done the gallery item. The next thing is this link, right? So we have the link and we have this image that has the class gallery image. So we're going to style that next. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make it fit into those spaces. So we'll type period gallery img. And then in gallery image, we're going to give it a height of 100%. And then we're going to tell it object. Now you can see with that object fit cover, our gallery expands and has everything nice and in a grid, okay? And these link to the images. We can make it a little bit cooler when we hover over the images, so we can have something happen to show that you could probably click on it. So underneath gallery image, we'll type period, and then we'll put a colon, and we can type hover. So this is when the cursor is hovering. We are going to tell it to have a certain behavior. So we're going to make it scale 150%. So now we do this, and if you look, it's very intense. So we don't want it to look like that. Make sure you don't have, I had a typo here. So now it works and it stays inside the overflow hidden. But you see how fast it snaps? That's okay, but we can make that even cooler if we go on gallery image and we type transition, and then we say 0.5 seconds, and then we can tell it to ease in and out. If we save that, and now we go back, and check this out. We get this nice zoom in when we hover over our images. And this works at all sizes. So if you make it smaller, they still zoom in. This is really nice. So that concludes the auto fit gallery. That's all you need to do. Now on all devices with that code, you now have an auto fit gallery. I will now show you how to do a grid span gallery, add a lightbox to your gallery, and then add captions to your lightboxes. In order to make the grid span gallery, what we're going to do is we're just going to go to index.html. We're going to press Control A or Command A, and then Control C or Command C and copy everything. Then we're going to make a new file, and we're going to call it grid span.html. And then inside this, we'll just paste all of the information. And so we'll change the top up here. We'll add an H1, and we'll call it grid span gallery. And we can take this H1 and we can put it in the index, and we can call this one auto fit gallery. Save that. Now it has something to indicate which page that we're on. And if we go to grid span gallery, we click on this, then when you can see that you're on the grid span gallery. So we're going to add some CSS that allows us to span. If you remember from the previous CSS video, we can tell the grid to span certain sections. So let's go to the style CSS. And we're going to type a couple things because we are using mobile first. So first, we're going to type the styles that need to be right here. Okay, so when it is in a mobile browser, we want those styles to exist. Okay, so let's type them. I'm going to type W1. So we're going to say this is like the width and the shorthand of one column, and then a comma, and then we'll type W-2. This is like two widths. Then we can type W-3, W-4, W-5. And then we can just tell it, what do we want it to do on mobile? We want it to be grid. We want it to span one. So you see, nothing changed. That's because we want this to be the way it is on mobile. So we need to do the same things for the height. The height spans the rows. So we can say H1, and here we type grid row span 1. And again, nothing has changed, and it will auto-format your CSS. Now we need to go down below our media query. So starting on these larger screens, we can go below these. And now we want to type in what they would look like if we're actually using them on a larger screen. So let's go ahead and type those in. And you can even put a comment in if you want. Put /*. So these are the grid, column, and row spans for wider screens. There are many ways to do this. We're using classes. You can also use nth child, like we used for the even and odd color in the previous video. But we're going to be able to use this so we can target specific images. So what you need to do is type W-1, and this one is the same. We say grid column span 1. Now we can just go ahead and copy this, and then paste it 5 times, and then we can change this to a 2, and this a 2. So that will span 2 columns. Change this to a 4 for 4 columns, 5. Then we need one more. That will span 6 columns. So now we're going to do the same thing for the height for the rows. So we'll type period H-1, grid-row, span 1. And then we copy this 5 times. And then the same thing, we just need to change these 1s to 2. So we'll span 2 rows. And if I save that, again, nothing happens. So, and nothing's going to happen in mobile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this out. And then we're going to go to the grid span HTML. And then what we can add is on the gallery item, because remember the gallery items are the first children of our grid container. The grid container is the section class gallery autofit. But actually, we're going to change this to gallery span. And if I do that, everything's going to go crazy. So we need to go back to our styles, and we need to copy this, change this to span. And for this one, initially, we're just going to have, we can change this to have just one row for mobile first. So we'll copy this line. And for mobile first, we'll just type 1FR. So now it's doing the mobile first styles. And then we can go down to the larger places. And then we can add, make sure your CSS class names match. And there we go. Now we're back to here, and we're styling this specific gallery because you might have different galleries on different pages. And so we have it set up to be auto fit min max 300 pixels 1FR for big screens. And then when we're on mobile, it goes right down to 1. So now we can set up these spans to look the way we want. So let's go to grid span HTML. And then on the gallery items, we can just add our W's and our H's. So if I go to this first gallery item and I type W-3 and I save it, suddenly that goes across 3. So that can be a lot of fun. We can go to the next item and we can say W-2 and H-2. And if I save that, that's kind of neat too. So now we can start to have a different gallery setup. Let's skip a couple. So we leave a couple squares and we'll go down here. And how about I go just H-2? So there we go. So now we have this looking like that. And then we can do a W-2. We can just be a little random with these. H-3. And then we can see if I move this around, it all auto flows. But what's up with these gaps? So we can fix those gaps by changing the way the grid displays in the CSS. So we have to go to our gallery span, and then we say grid auto flow, and we say dense. And what this will do is find spaces for everything. So if now, when I scroll this up, everything is nice and filled in. And you can make any kind of pattern that you want. And notice that our zoom in still works. And if we scroll down, this will all get smashed. And if we want more columns, so say we wanted more grid columns, we could come down to this min-max and we can change this to 200, right? And so then we get a lot more variety on our columns. Let's go back into the HTML and change some more of these. So in grid span, we can come down here. I'm going to do another W2, maybe H3. That'll be fun. There, so now we have this nice tall menu right here. And let's get another square one. So maybe this one right here will do. Okay, so now we have this nice gallery that is a little bit more interesting than just, say, having square rows. And we can go to the auto fit gallery. So here's our auto fit, and then here's our grid span. Okay, neither one is better than the other. They just offer you different options. But if I click on one of these images, it's great. It goes to the image. I can see it. I can click and I can zoom in. But I can't go to any other image without clicking the back arrow. So there's a better way to do that. And what we're going to do is use a little JavaScript to create a lightbox. And what we're going to do is go to this Glightbox. So you can just type in Glightbox into Google, and then you'll come to this. So if I type Glightbox in Google and right here. So then I can go view the source, and it has all of the source and the features here on GitHub. You can go to the live demo. That was the page that we were just on. So here's the live demo. And what this does is if you click on it, then we can go from image to image, which is really nice. Okay. So what we need to get the code. So we can go ahead and download and then save the Glight master zip. And then it's going to open up in your downloads folder. So then go into the folder. And we need to get a couple things. So we'll go into the distribution folder, and in the CSS, we need to get this file, the Glightbox minimum CSS, and we need to put that in the CSS folder. Make sure it's in your CSS folder. And then in the JavaScript, we need the glightbox.min.js. So we can drag this over, and then we can make sure it's in the JavaScript folder. You can either drag them into Visual Studio Code, or you can use your file manager to move them around. And then we can just close them because we're not going to edit any of the features on that. But we do need to include them. So we're going to make a new file. So first, let's go ahead and copy our indexed HTML. So we'll do it on the AutoFit gallery first. So on indexed HTML, select everything and copy it. And then right click and make a new file. And we're going to call this lightbox.html. And then paste everything from index.html. And then we're going to change the heading to Lightbox Gallery. And if we save that, we can confirm that everything is working. If we go here, I should now be able to go to Lightbox Gallery, and here we are. But there is no Lightbox. Let's fix that. So a couple things we need to do. First, we need to add the style sheet. So we can type link, and then CSS, and then a slash, and we need the glightbox.min CSS. Right, so save that. So now we have that included. But now if we go to the GitHub page, it gives us some instructions. It tells us what we need to do. So it says manually download it. Well, we did. So, and we've done the style sheet. Now we need to copy this script tag. So, and we need to put that right below the closing body tag. So here is our closing body tag. Right before that is where you put JavaScript. So now we have the GS Lightbox JavaScript, but we still need to call the function. And so what we can do is we have an example right here. We can just copy this and put this inside a script tag. And these options, we can just type loop true. If we save this, then we can now add our lightbox to our images. And the way this works is we need to add the class Glightbox. We could add different classes, but this is the default, so we'll use this for now. So I can just copy that, and I add it to the anchor link text. So I can just go up to the top here, and on each link I want to be part of this lightbox, I just add this class. So I can just go right after there and add it to each one. So make sure you're inside the link, make sure you're not moving any of the quotes. Add this to each of the links that you want to be part of the lightbox. If I save that, I can go back to our grid galleries, and this is a lightbox. So now if I click on this, I have a typo. So let's fix that. Oh, I have an extra script tag. So there we go. So if you accidentally have an extra script tag, make sure you fix that. Don't need that right there. Be careful when you're copying and pasting. Here I have still the distribution. So now if I save this, now I have my lightbox. And as you can see, I can now click through all of my images, which is much nicer to do. So this is great. Now we want to be able to do this on and have captions. Now we want to be able to have this lightbox and have captions. And what's nice is with the loop true that we typed here, we can start on the end and then we actually get to go all the way back to the beginning, which is nice because you want people to be able to see all of your work and just keep seeing it and seeing it. And we can still zoom in on them, which is great. So I'm going to close that. Let's go ahead and make one more page. So what we can do is let's use our grid span. So I'll copy all of the grid span, right click, new file, Lightbox caption, HTML, paste all of the grid span. Okay, save that. Then we can go to the Lightbox and we can copy the CSS link text, right? So then we go to Lightbox caption, go up to the top, and we'll go ahead and add in that CSS. We'll change this to Lightbox Caption Gallery. We can go to the Lightbox and we can copy all the JavaScript right here now that we don't have any typos. Copy that, and we'll go down to the body closing tag of Lightbox Caption, and we'll paste this. And if we go to Lightbox Caption, you'll notice that it doesn't do the Lightbox yet. That's because we still have to add the Lightbox classes to the links. If you had multiple Lightboxes on one page, you would have to set different class names. But since these are on different pages, we can use the same class, which is the default class, Glightbox. And so now we just need to copy this and paste it after each of the links. Make sure you're inside the link. Great. And so we can test that out. And here we go. So we have our Lightbox working even on our grid span gallery. What we want to be able to have is captions. So if we go back over to the GitHub source, it shows us exactly how to do that. We can have a simple description right here. So we can copy this and let's look where it is. It's inside the link text. So it's right after the class. So we can just go up to the top and then we can paste it in. And let's just save the default and see what happens. So if I go here and I click on this, notice now I have my title. This is the slide description. So I can change that and I can say menu, and notice the colon and the semicolon. This should look familiar from CSS. So we'll use that same syntax. And then here we'll type, and if I save that and click, now it says menu, Victorian menu from the New York Public Library Public Domain Collection. So I'm going to just copy this and paste it on a couple more to show you some options you can do. If we go back to the GitHub repository, it says that we can have description position. So if I copy this, and let's go to, this is the second one. So after that last semicolon of the description, we can paste in description position, put a colon, and I can say left. Let's go ahead and copy this. And on the next one, we can say top, and then one more. And then if we save that and we go back to our gallery, we click, the default is on the bottom. But if I click here now, we can see it can be on the left. It can be on the top. Or it could be on the right. You can style this in any way you want. You can even use the advanced captioning and descriptions to add your own HTML and links in the description, which is very powerful. So now we have these great galleries with a minimal amount of code that you can use on your portfolio websites. The next thing to do is to commit our changes in Visual Studio Code. So click on Source Control, initialize your repository. This is our initial commit. Click the check mark. Then I'm going to sync it with a public repository on GitHub. And then you can open it in GitHub, sign in to GitHub. Once you're signed in, here's our repository. We can go to the settings of this repository and then scroll down to the GitHub pages, and we want to publish our main branch. Click the enforce HTTPS if it's not clicked. Refresh the page. Soon it will be published right here. So now it is published. I can go to each of the pages. So if I go to grid span, everything works. On the live web, if I go to Lightbox, it has all the JavaScript there. So we can go through on the Lightbox. And if I go to Lightbox caption, I can click on the ones that do have captions. And then I can see my captions. In the next video, I'll show you how to combine many of these techniques into a full-blown portfolio website.